Hello everyone. In this video, we are going to talk about Lando. Lando is a Docker-based local development setup. So in this video, we are mainly going to talk about few points, which are what is Lando, why to use Lando, a very basic overview of how to use Lando, that is the usage of it, and mainly how Lando works from behind the scenes. Okay, so with that said, let's get started. So as I said, Lando is a Docker-based local development setup. So next comes why should we use Lando? But before talking about Lando, let's talk about why am I in favor of using Docker as a local development setup. So according to me, Docker has few benefits. Like firstly, it is a virtualized system. So suppose you have a situation where you have to install a web app which suppose contains many small services, which is an ideal case these days. Suppose a web app contains a backend service, a front-end service, a database service, a caching service such as Redis, and lastly, to make it a little bit more complex, let's consider a Elasticsearch instance. So all these five instances are running. So installing these locally would be a little bit cumbersome, at least according to me. But with Docker, we can install those in their own virtualized systems and they can communicate very easily within each other. And then when the need of those are done, we can just remove those without any impact on our local system. So because of this, I prefer Lando. That is, our base system remains clean. Only one application is installed on our base system, which is Docker itself. So next, let's talk about what is Lando and why Lando. So as I said, Lando is basically a local development setup based on Docker. So you can think of Lando as a Docker container orchestrator on a high level with certain more advantages, like it provides you predefined recipes for spinning up different containers for a particular tech stack. So we will learn about that later, but hopefully you have got an idea now about what exactly Lando is. It will be more clear later on, but now let's talk about some of the advantages of using Lando. Previously we talked about advantages of using Docker, but now talking about advantages of using Lando. Firstly, as I said, it's kind of an orchestrator, so we don't at all have to worry about spinning different containers to create an entire tech stack, as I said, as I gave the example previously of the web app containing those five services. So using Lando, we can just write a configuration file. We will check the configuration file later, and then we can just run one Lando command like Lando start, and it will spin up all the instances, and even it will manage all the instances. That is, later when we want to kill all those instances, we can just run Lando destroy, and all those instances related to that particular configuration file will be deleted. So this was one. Next is that Lando also provides you with proper domain names. Like suppose your app name is ABC, then it will provide you with a domain name like abc.lndo.site. So you don't have to remember those ports in which your apps are present, and you can just reach them easily with those domain names. So in the last part, where we will see the working principle of Lando, we will understand that how those domain names are mapped locally. So that was all about why you should use Lando. So now let's get a quick little demo of how to use Lando. This will be a very small demo and a very simple demo. In this video we will not dive into much usage of Lando. For that I will create a separate video. This is mainly about introduction and how Lando works actually from the inside. Okay, so first of all you need to install Lando. So for that you can go to docs over here and go to get started, and over here you can go to installation. Now you can check the installation instruction for your OS. Particularly I am using Arch Linux, so for that reason I have installed it like this. So according to your according to your OS, you can install anything from here. Just check all the installation instructions are over here. You can also build it from the source if you don't have any of these over here. Okay. Now, once you have installed Lando, what you can do is that create an empty folder, go to that folder, and in this example, we will create a simple lemp stack and run a simple PHP file which will run hello world. So let's first create that PHP file. So let's index.php, and here let's do something like this. And that's it. This is a simple PHP file. Now we will create a Lando configuration file for lemstack. So for that, for creating the configuration file, you can write it yourself also, or you can use Lando itself to create it. So we will say Lando init, and it will say from where do we want our app's code base. So we have our code base in our current working directory only, that is in this test. So we will just say current working directory, enter. So what recipe you want to use, we will use the lem stack. There are many other recipes over here, as you can see, including WordPress, Symfony, and these things. So we will take the simple lem stack. Mean stack is also there. What is your web root related to the init directory destination. So your configuration file will be created over here. It's saying that where is your root apps root directory. It's present over here only, so it will be just dot, which is the default. And now give a name to your Lando app. So I will give the name of test, and that's it. Your config file is created over here, which is actually lando.lando.yml file. So let's take a quick look at the file. So it's very simple file. The name, which is test, the recipe, which is lemstack, and config, in which we say the web root is the present working directory. Again, I'm not going in deep. There are many other configurations to make many complex configuration files to run many services same time linked together. But again, I'm not going into that part in this video. Now to just spin up the Lando containers, you can just say Lando while in the directory where you have the lando.yml, you can just say Lando start, and that's it. It will start. It will take some time depending on your Lando config file, what you have there. I already have my the Docker images pulled. If you don't have, if you run it from the first time, then it will pull all the Docker images required from the Docker hub, and then as you can see, it's installing Composer. So these all things are written in the recipe itself. Again, I'm not going deep into those things. Okay, now as you can see, the app is ready, and here are the URLs. So these are the URLs in the local host, the port exposed from the Docker containers. We will learn how this works, and these two are the domains which you get after it has mapped. So it uses a reverse proxy, which we will check later, but I will open the HTTPS one. If you have done nothing, then by default your HTTPS one will not work. It will be redirected to the HTTP one, as you don't have the certificates valid, SSL certificates valid. So I will also show you how to make your SSL certificates valid. So I will go to the this one, and now you can see it's just hello world. That's it. So that's the simple app we have created, and we have started a new project over here with this. And now what you can do with your teammates is that just share this lando.yml file, and that's it. Everything will be done. They just have to run lando start, and your project is ready. So that's again one more benefit of Lando. So now let's deep dive into Lando and see how it works from internal, how these ports are exposed, how it manages all the container, what is the container structures, and how it maps these domains. Okay, so let's get started. Okay, so lastly, let's discuss about how Lando works internally. So if I run over here Docker PS, which basically lets down all the currently running Docker containers, you will see that total of 4 containers are running currently, out of which 3 of them are the containers of this particular app which I just started, which is test.lndo.site. As you can see, test database one, test app server nginx one, and test app server one. So this is the database, this is the web server, and this is the PHP instance of the app. All of these three internally communicate to run the app. If you run lando destroy, you will see all these 3 containers are just removed, and if you run lando stop, all these 3 containers will be just stopped. And the fourth one is a container, is one and only container which basically runs all the time. And as you can see, it's a reverse proxy, which is actually a reverse proxy, if you know, called traffic. And the purpose of it is only reverse proxy, and you can see it listens on port 80 and port 443, which are HTTP and HTTPS ports respectively. So currently, if you request to your local host, the local host request will be received by the traffic reverse proxy only. We will see why it is so a bit later. But currently you can just understand that this is a reverse proxy listening on port 80 and port 443. Okay, so now let's see what happens when you request to this test.lndo.site. So when your computer receives for test.lndo.site, it, as known, it doesn't know about what is test.lndo.site. So if you know about the DNS resolution process, you will know that how the DNS is resolved. So if you don't know, you can check out this link to read more about how DNS is resolved. So basically, on a high level overview, it requests to a DNS server on the internet, and there the respective domain owners can basically list down the DNS it wants. So, but in this particular case, the DNS record is a little bit interesting. So, a wildcard DNS entry is done, which is star.lndo.site. That is, every subdomain of lndo.site will be redirected to the local host. So, now I will not go into much depth about how that is done, because that's not that's out of the scope of this video, but you can understand that all the requests to start.lndo.site are redirected from this DNS server to our local host. And as you can see, now the local host, as we are requesting test.lndo.site to the local host request directly goes to port 80 or 8443 depending on your protocol. And there, what is running? The reverse proxy, traffic reverse proxy. So it receives the test.lndo.site. And as I said, the function of reverse proxy is basically to kind of, on a high level overview, maintain a table. The test.lndo.site corresponds to this IP. So currently IP is the same, but just the difference is port. So in this app's case, our ports are 32780 and 32781, depending again on the protocol. So whenever we just receive that, the reverse proxy just receives the request for https test.lndo.site. It checks its table and it sees that, okay, we have to redirect it to 327.8 port, and that's it. It redirects the request to this port, and now this port is actually running the web server, and it can process the request, and that's it. You just get the response. So this is the entire process of processing the request. That is, your request actually goes to the internet, then to your reverse proxy, then to your actual port which is running the server, and then you get the response. So hopefully now the internal working of Lando is clear. And so out of this explanation, let's now ask two questions. First one is, what happens if the internet connection is lost? Then will we be able to reach test.lndo.site? If we are not able to reach, why we are not able to reach? And then what can we do? That is, how can we use Lando offline if we are not able to use Lando offline? So try it yourself and see if you can figure it out. Else, you can visit this blog link where you can scroll to the bottommost part. There you will see the explanation of these two questions. And with that the introduction of Lando is over, and hopefully you like the video. Uh, in the next video, we will talk a little bit more about the usage of Lando, how to create configuration files, different types of configuration files, different parts of the configuration file, etc. Till then, thank you. Thanks for watching. Bye bye.